I want to read a story. And what I've been doing, and I like to always do it, is pull out about 3-4 points that I think will apply to you and I today, if I can keep them in my hand, okay? So what I'm going to ask you to do is just listen, okay? And hopefully there will be an encouraging word for you, all right? And this morning, I'm going to read out of a, this is a crazy book. It's not a crazy book. It's the Passion Translation. It's just a different translation from the Bible. Many of us, when we used to read like King James was a big deal, you know, King James, and then there was the NIV. And these are all translations of basically the original language. A lot of people think King James was the main Bible, how it was written, but that was actually translated from Latin. So, and so what people sometimes do, but it doesn't mean that the stories aren't true. They just say it in a way that I can understand it better. You know what I mean? That's why I like to read some of the different ones. And so this story, you probably know it, but I'm going to read it out of what they call the Passion Bible. And then I'm going to pull about 4 or 5 points out of this. Actually, I got 4 points I want to pull out of this, and then we'll get going. We'll pray and get you guys on your way, okay? And we do have a bunch of stuff. And at the end of the meeting, please remember, we do have a lot of produce, and we're going to set some dairy up here over in our warehouse. And I need to distribute all of that today. So hopefully you guys, produce is good, okay? Pastries is better, but no produce is good. I like the pastries. Can you tell? So listen to this story. I'll read through it real quick, and then we'll get to the points, and then you guys will be on your way. It says in chapter 8 of John, verse 1, it says, Jesus walked up to the Mount of Olives near the city where he was spending the night. And then at dawn, Jesus appeared into the temple, and as soon as all the people gathered around to listen to his words, so he sat down and he began to teach them. Okay, put yourself in the story. Okay, remember I always say, put yourself in the story. Okay, see yourself one of those people in that temple, and all of a sudden you look over there, here comes Jesus walking in to teach it. Come on, put yourself in the story. You guys do that when you go to the movie, so do that here. And it says in the middle of his teaching, the religious scholars and the Pharisees broke through the crowd, and they brought a woman who had been caught in the act of committing adultery and made her stand in the middle of everyone. And that word made kind of jumped out at me this morning. I've read this story a billion times, I guess, or a lot of times. And when I read that, I realized they pushed their way through the crowd because everybody was gathered around, like you'd all be gathered around here. And as Jesus was teaching, all these people gathered around, but here comes the Pharisees, and they literally pushed their way through the crowd. And then it says they made her, which means they literally dragged her out and made her stand there, okay? It wasn't like she wanted to. They made her. So you got to think about that. And whenever I read this story, I think of this poor woman, okay? She probably, well, I mean, just picture in your mind what this poor woman may have looked like. I'm sorry. This is how I do it. I'm a visual person. I have to see things, okay? I got to see how things are. This poor woman didn't want to be there because they made her to be there. So who knows? She's probably all sweaty, might even been dirty because maybe they dragged her along for a while. I mean, think about this. Couldn't think of, well, you know, to be honest about it, she's probably embarrassed maybe. You would think she'd be embarrassed. I mean, they made her, they dragged her out there, okay? And it says they made her stand in the middle of everybody. So it'd be like Michael all of a sudden come walking in and say, hey, look who we caught out in the parking lot parking here. And I want everybody to see her, and then drag her out here. Oh, come on. How many of you know what parking is? And I'm not saying park in your car either, okay? And nobody raised their hand. Do you know what I mean when I said that, brother?
I missed it. I just walked back in.
Okay. You know what parking means if you went parking? You don't know it? Are you lying to me or you?
I've been on a long time. Is it something new?
Well, it's new to you, but it's old story. Well, now I'm stuck. I have to explain it. Okay, now this is really bad. Parking is when you took your girlfriend and you found a nice dark spot so you could do whatever you want to do in that place, and there you go. John Mellencamp says, take off those Bobby Brooks. And let me. But anyway, I just said way too much, didn't I? I'm just trying to help the brother out.
Your face is a little red.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean,
it's supposed to be like
you made me do that. I think, no, we're moving on, okay? I'm just being real to you. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. This woman was caught doing something, and it was embarrassing, and they dragged her in front of a whole bunch of people, and they didn't really care about her. They didn't give a rip about her. They were trying to catch Jesus. I mean, let's just be truthful about it. Because it goes on, it says, and they said to Jesus, and they called him teacher, which I think was being sarcastic as it is, we caught this woman in the very act of adultery. Doesn't Moses' law command us to stone to death a woman like this? Tell us what do you say we should do with her? And you can see it's all a setup. You guys know this was all a setup. I have a couple of in-laws that they know who I am, and they know I'm a minister, and they know the type of church I attend. And every time we'd go home, they'd start asking me questions, and it was all a setup. I'm sorry. They were being sarcastic, and they were trying to set. And you know, when you come here, and I think you know this, we don't talk about do's and don'ts. We don't talk about law. You know, they're talking about the law of Moses, okay? Well, first of all, if they knew the law of Moses, they know that the law of Moses says bring the man too. Bring them both, okay? It wasn't just the woman. It was the man and the woman. In fact, I had a judge one time who's now a federal judge. He did a men's breakfast one time for us, and he said, back then, if you accused the woman, you were the ones that threw the stones to kill her. So the accusers were the ones that would kill the woman with the stones, or the person with the stones. And so here you are, somebody accused you or something, or say you accuse somebody, so then you're the ones that had to come with the stones and throw the stones and kill them. And then he said, and if they didn't die from the stoning, they were to take them and throw them off a cliff. Because if you accused them and they were supposed to be killed, you were the ones who were supposed to make sure that they were dead. Holy moly. That's tough, okay? So here they come to Jesus, and they know full well what the law is. And Jesus knew full well what they were doing. But they were just trying to catch him, okay? And you guys know that. And it says, but Jesus didn't answer them. Instead, he bent down and he wrote in the dust with his finger. Angry, that's what I like about this. It says, angry, they kept insisting that he answer their questions. They got angry. The Bible says the anger of man does not work the righteousness of God. Anybody here ever pound something you wish you hadn't pounded? Some of you raise your hand. Come on. I remember one time I was working at a Colonel Sanders, and I got really mad, and I pounded the bathroom door, and I broke it. Well, I mean, I didn't think I was that good of a hitter, but it was a pretty cheap door, okay? All I knew is I had to buy a new door, okay? Look at you, look. Say, I had to buy the new door, okay? And they were angry, and they insisted that he answered him. So it says Jesus stood up and he looked at him, and you guys know where he's going. He said, let's have the man who never had a sinful desire. And that's the other way I like this. Because in some translations it says, he who without sin. But here it says, let the man who never had a sinful desire throw the first stone at her. We won't go any farther about men and what they think about every 20 seconds. The ladies are laughing, and all the men are going. I'm just trying to be real with you guys, okay? Because here's the deal. The Bible says all of us have sinned and come short of the glory of God. So you can't be perfect and get into heaven. You just got to know Jesus. In fact, you can't be perfect. Everybody here made a mistake. Everybody in here has done something wrong. Sorry. You know, sin, we always say, ooh, sin, let's do that. Sin basically means missing the mark. That's all that really means, is missing the mark. And who's setting the mark? Well, God sets the mark. God says, here's what you have to be like to get into heaven. And he knew that we couldn't do that, so that's why Jesus came, because Jesus then paid the price so that we can now get in on his card. And I got to be honest with you, if you don't, you're missing out on something here. It's like, that's a good deal. And that's like buying a car and somebody paying for it, and then you try to make payments. It's like, what are you doing? But a lot of religions, that's what they do. They try to make you make payments. When I was in a Catholic church, because I was a Catholic, I guess I still am, they never kicked me out. You know, we used to be able to go in and light candles and earn grace. I'm serious. I mean, we used to go in and light candles, and they said, as you lit candles, that's how you got grace. At Lent, which is kind of what we're doing now, it's a season that leads up to Easter, we used to fast. Okay, and that was earning you grace. Well, that's just the opposite of the word grace. Grace says I'm giving you something you don't deserve and you can't earn. And so I remember going in lighting candles. Okay, come on. I mean, I was a Catholic. I thought that was the deal, okay? I thought I used to have confession in the Catholic church. You'd go in and tell the priest everything you did wrong. Anybody here know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you watch a movie, you know what I'm talking about, okay? So, yeah, see, I did too. I went to Catholic school, and I thought you go to confession so you earn grace. So I'd make stuff up. I would. I thought, well, this is a good deal. I need grace. Okay, so I'd go in there and make up stuff. I must have lied to mom this week, so I lied to mom. And I just make up stuff and go in there. Sorry. Totally misunderstood what it means to miss the mark. Totally would have misunderstood to know that Jesus is the Lord of your life. He paid the price for it. He's on your side. He's trying to help you get through life. The word here helps you get through life. And you get to heaven one day. Glory to God. But it also says this, that he promises us life and life abundantly. That's life here, not just up there. It's life here too. And unfortunately, we all run into stuff in our life. We don't have money. We lose a job. We get sick. Things break. Things happen. And you say, well, that's not real abundant. No, it's not. But the Lord will help you get through that so that you can enjoy life where you're at. See, you won't enjoy life just because you have a big car or a big house. I'm going to be truthful about it. You're going to enjoy life because joy comes from the Lord, not from having things. Okay? I'm pretty happy when I've got myself a pecan pie. Okay? I don't know about you, but did I say that right? Is it pecan or pecan? Pecan. It's pecan, isn't it?
Yep, that's what it is.
My grandmother used to say creek instead of crick. She also said sandwich, too. I don't know why she said that. I don't know where that came from. But you see, those are good things, and the Lord doesn't have anything against you having some of those things. But what we do sometimes is we put those in priority in our life. And so that's when we get skewed, okay? And I got off track. Come back. And it says this. He says, let the man who has never had a sinful desire, throw the first stone. Then he bent down again. He began to write words in the dust. And upon hearing that, her accusers slowly left the crowd, one at a time, beginning with the oldest to the youngest, because the old guys were, yeah, guess what? With a convicted conscience, it said. I'm going to come back to that word convicted. It says, until finally Jesus was left alone with the woman still standing in front of him. So he stood up and he said to her, dear woman, where are your accusers? And is there no one here to condemn you? And I love this translation. It said, looking around, she said, I see no one, Lord. Because I think she had her head down because she was embarrassed. And I think she might even been crying. And I think she had her head down, her eyes closed, thinking somebody's going to throw a rock. Okay, I'm going to hit it in the back of the head here in a minute. And all of a sudden, Jesus stands up and says, where's your accusers? And I think she opens up her eyes and she looks around. And she's like, whoa, there's nobody here but us. And she said, I see no one, Lord. That's another important word, that Lord. Because the Bible says, do you know Jesus as your Lord of your life? Lord in the Greek means owner. Lord in the Greek means that's the person that you're believing in and trusting is going to take care of you. So Lord was a big deal. So when she said Lord, that showed him that she knew who he was and that she knew he was the only one that was really going to change her life. And so he said, I certainly don't condemn you either. Go, and from now on, listen to this. He says, be free from a life of sin. Okay? That doesn't mean that you won't sin. What it will be is that you, even when you make a mistake, you can turn around, ask God for forgiveness, and you're free from the guilt of the things that you did wrong. Okay? And some of you say, well, I don't feel too guilty about the stuff I did wrong. Well, that's another story and another sermon, but we're not going to go there, okay? 4 points. Number one, your sin will find you out. Listen, stay with me now. I'm not throwing a rock at anybody, but you know what? This lady was living a life that she should not be living, and she got found out. She got found out in the wrong way. She got brought up in front of people in the wrong way. She was being condemned in the wrong way. But you know what? I found out in life, you know what? You just keep doing something wrong, and somewhere along the line, you're going to pay a price for it. I'm sorry. Okay? It just happens. And you say, well, I'm never going to get caught. Well, you know what? Every time we do certain things in our life, I believe it steals things from us. I'm going to say this, and don't take it wrong, but I hope you understand why I did this. My mother's greatest sin was bitterness. See, some people say, well, bitterness is not a sin. She was bitter about everything. She was bitter about the way she grew up. She was bitter about the way her father treated her. She was bitter about where things were going on in her life, and she was always bitter. And I truly believe this. You don't have to, but I truly believe this. That's why when my mom got old, arthritis ate her up. She always had health problems because she was always bitter. And remember, bitterness is drinking poison and waiting for the other guy to die. Amen. And my mother, I think she was bitter all of her life. And I love my mother, and I asked her right before she died, a month before she died, I said, Mom, do you know Jesus? Oh, I know Jesus. I'm believing in Jesus. I'm going to get to heaven because of Jesus. But she was always bitter. And my mother could worry. I told you guys, she could worry chrome off a bumper. That woman could worry. I mean, and you know what? Worry will catch up on you too, because that's called stress. And the next thing you know, it steals your health. It steals your joy. It steals your happiness. And most of the time you worry about stuff that you can't change anyway. In fact, they usually say worry is worrying about stuff that hadn't even happened. You know, really, and that's true. When you really get down to, oh boy, I'm just going to worry. And my wife does this too. I've got to help her every once in a while. Of course, she helps me and stuff too. But you're our son. What if? Quit worrying about him. Although he's given us some stuff to worry about. How many of you got kids in here? How many of you know they can give you stuff to worry about? Look at that, boy. Hands went up like that. My son was crazy at times, and he'd say, Dad, how'd you know? Well, because I was there. I'd done the same thing, okay? Yeah. Number one, your sin will find you out. So what does that say to you and I today? I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you did, but you're not going to really get away with it. And if you're in here today because of guilt of something that you did, you need to get rid of it. Just turn it over to the Lord and say, I'm done. Lord, you paid the price. Why am I carrying it? See, God paid the price for whatever you did, but he also paid the price for whatever people did to you. So why are you carrying it? Well, I'm just mad. Well, bitterness is not going to do any good. Sorry. You know how you get rid of that? It's called forgiveness. Number two, this one I like. I like this one a lot. Until you're right with God, your life will never be right. And I like that because it kind of rhymes a little bit. But until you're right with God, your life will never be right. Because you see, what happens is you create in you a spiritual hunger cannot be filled by anything but by the Lord. So you try to fill it with other things, whether it be food or drink or drugs or cars or whatever. I don't care what. But you can't fill that spiritual hunger with anything except with God. So until your life is right with God, your life will never be right. I'm sorry. And what we do is we get sidetracked because things don't go the way we want, and so we kind of give up on God. Well, you know what? God hasn't given up on you, and he's not done with you yet. But what you have to do is called faith, and your faith, and so that's why everybody tells me it's a walk of faith. It's not a moment of faith and then everything is fine. No, it's a walk of faith. And as you walk through faith, walk through things in life, using your faith, believing God, he will build your faith to where you can face the next thing that comes along. Years ago, I started doing mission trips with the church. I felt like the Lord wanted me to do mission trips, go overseas. And it was a real blessing. I've done over 50 teams, to be quite honest about it, and been to some crazy countries. I was telling them the other day, how many of you were here the other day when I told about the Nigeria trip, and they taught me how to do blood pressures? Okay, well, it was pretty simple. You were here. It's pretty simple to do a blood pressure. We all think it's a tough thing, but it's really pretty simple. And so I got into the clinic, and this 92, 93-year-old Nigerian lady came in. She was all dressed up real pretty, Nigerian garb. And the interpreter, I said, have her roll her sleeve up because I needed to put the blood. And so what she told the lady was take her clothes off. You guys heard this before, yeah. So I get my stuff and I turn around, and I got to be honest with you, I'm now looking at a 93-year-old Nigerian lady. That is a vision I will carry through my life. It was like, some of you will remember nothing but that. Until you're right with God, your life will never be right. Spiritual hunger is the worst hunger you can ever have. Because it does come out as bitterness and anger and can be worry, can be stress. It's all kinds of stuff. Number three, God's not condemning you, but he does convict you. Some of you are laughing. Condemning is destroying. Convicting is about change. There's a difference. Okay, there's things that I do that I know I'm not supposed to do, and the Lord convicts me to stop doing them because he knows that while I'm doing that, I'm not enjoying the full joy and abundant life that he's promised me, but he doesn't get involved in my choice. He gives me direction in my choice because you choose. Everybody chooses. You chose to get up this morning. You chose to brush your teeth or not brush your teeth. I mean, you chose the pants you put on. What's that, brother?
I got one question.
Sure. Hope I can answer it. I believe that it does mean that you have chosen. There is a group of people that the Lord says when they become my believer, they are the chosen because they're the believers in me. And God has chosen those who believe in him to receive his abundant life. But you become part of that chosen because you got to make a choice. Let's say you chose to brush your teeth, didn't you? Some of you didn't. I can tell by the look on your face. You're not doing this. Some of us chose to shave, and some of us chose not to. Men and women. No, but anyway, condemnation is destroying. See, God does not condemn you, but he may convict you in some things. And the reason I bring that up is not to throw a stone at you, but you know what? When you're not right with God, your life's not going to be right. And sometimes we choose to do the wrong things, and the Lord doesn't leave you over that. He doesn't quit loving you over that. He just wants you to kind of make a change. See, and what you need to do, and I always need to do, and I'll be honest with you, every day I got to do it. I got to choose to trust God and not trust the partners who are going to send me money. Oh boy, went to the post office today. How much came in? Oh boy, I hope that person sends a big check. No, I got to believe God. God is my source, and he uses people, but God's got to be my source. And when I get off track, God doesn't condemn me. He says, convict me. He says, oh, how about you come back and start trusting me? How about you put your faith back in me? And there's a conviction that causes me to change. Okay? But what we don't like it because we don't like it. I mean, let's be honest about it. When you're doing something that's not right, you don't like it when somebody tells you not. How many of you know what I'm talking about? That's why you got mad at your parents, because they say, don't do that. Then I'd go do it just out of spite. Anybody ever done that? And you know, here's the other thing too. If God hasn't pointed out to you, then okay, move on. You know, when I first got born again, and when I first came back to the Lord, people came and said, well, now you need to stop doing this. Well, there was such a list. It was like, Lord God Almighty. I mean, I don't know what I'm. And so finally, I had the smartest pastor came up to me and says, you know what? The Lord loves you, and you're a child of God. And when you're ready to change, and when you're ready to drop some of those things, God will convict you of those things, and that's when he'll give you the strength and power to do it. Because I smoked, and many of you know this, I smoked many years after I came back to the Lord. I was 12 years old. I knew the Lord as my Lord and Savior, but I like smoking. Sorry. 2 packs of cigarettes a day? Well, that was back when they were 35 cents a pack. So it was pretty, yeah. I mean, nowadays, they're, oh, Lord Almighty, I don't know how anybody can smoke. But there was a point reached where I wanted to do a few more things, and all of a sudden I could feel the Lord was convicting me. It was time to kind of walk away from some stuff. Okay, it's okay. And he gave me the strength to do it. Stay with me on this. Conviction should lead you to forgiveness, which should then lead you to change. Because you see, when the Lord convicts me, it's like, Lord, you know, you're right. I need to change. Please forgive me. And there's a power in forgiveness that I believe that the Lord will bring that. When you say, Lord, forgive me, there's a power that's bestowed on you to move past it at that point. Okay? So anyway, last thing. And I like this one too. This one's real good. Because at the end, she woke up and she looked around and she said, Lord, there's nobody left. And I got to tell you something. When it all comes down to it, it's just you and Jesus and the phone call. No, I'm just kidding. That's okay. It's just you and Jesus. It really is. It's not me. It's not all these other things. It really boils down to, what are you doing with Jesus? It's between you and Jesus. You're standing there before Jesus. That's really what it boils down to. And so if you were going to walk away with anything today, you just need to know the Lord just stand in front of you and say, man, I love you. And I got a great plan for your life. And I know that you're going through hell, but you know what? Don't stay there. You know the old saying, if you're going through hell, don't stop. If you're catching hell, don't hang on. Okay? How about you keep moving? What's that?
So Winston Churchill, if you're going through hell, just keep going.
Is that what it was? Say, there you go. There you go. You know what? And if God's convicting you on something, well, then why don't maybe pay attention to that? But the main thing today is, you know what? God's with you right now, and he wants to see you get through what you're going through, and you're going to make it. You're going to get through this. You know that? But how about we quit not turning our back on God? Let's just turn our faces to him, because that's what happened. You know what? He didn't stay on the ground. He stood up, and I think when he stood up, he got right up alongside her. And he looked her right in the eyes and said, it's just me and you. Just me and you. And I don't convict you because I love you too much. And I want to see you get through this. That's why he said, and you know what? Now, why don't you leave? And how about you walk away from the things that you've been doing? Because it's stealing your joy. It's stealing your future. It's stealing your money. It's stealing everything. How about you just walk away with it? And in fact, I believe that when he was really done, he was saying, and I'm going to help you give you the strength to get through it too. Isn't that cool? God is a good God. I love this story. That's why I always like to use a Bible story so that you find out who's Jesus. That's what you really want to know. My pastor always says people get so caught up in the process, they forget about the person. And the person is Jesus. He's not a cuss word that you used on 169, although he might have been. Okay? He might have been. He's the Lord of my life. I pray he's the Lord of your life. He is the God who takes care of me. I pray he's the God that takes care of you. He's the God that has forgiven me, and I know what I've done. He's the God that has forgiven you. He's the God that helps me get through. He's the God that takes care of me, and he'll do the same thing for you that he does for me. Why? Because he loves you that much. It's just that simple. Amen. Isn't that good to know?